Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Wellness Day, a podcast coming to you every Wednesday here from the Jahangir Wellness Center. My name is Kavas Jahangir, and here from the JWC studio, today I'm joined by Mr. Sandeep Pendurkar. He is the co-founder and the business director of Emoscape, something that you're going to hear all about. Here at the JWC, we love bringing in tech as much as we can for your wellness, but the main thing is to humanize everything. And that's what exactly Sandeep is going to be talking to us about, how we humanize technology, how we humanize the biggest buzzword today, AI. Sandeep, thank you so much for being here.
Thanks, Kawas. It's always a pleasure being here. And we've actually been here for some time.
Yep, I know it's a long time coming to have you on, so finally happy to have you here.
Yeah, thank you very much. It's
The first big question before we get into all the nitty gritty, what is Emoscape?
Emoscape is a medical grade AI, emotion AI engine, which can detect human emotions through a simple 1 minute test. So all the person has to do is, and it is carried out with a simple laptop.
Okay.
So all the person has to do is watch the camera, and it's a blank screen. And while the person watches the camera captures body movements, shoulder and above.
Okay.
So all the minutest movements on the neck, shoulder, eyes, and all the muscle movement on the face.
Wow.
And that gets translated into emotions.
And even though that you may think you're not moving or you're just actually picking up these micro
Yes.
movements, huh?
Yes, absolutely. Because there are a lot of things, movements, which are autonomous in nature. So which you think you control, but you don't.
Right.
Right? And in a 1 minute test, we actually capture 1,800 frames
Wow.
at 30 FPS.
Okay.
So that data is good enough for us to, translate them into emotions.
And what does it give you after that 1 minute?
Yeah. So it gives you an output of 9 emotions, as this is structured on the our ancient scriptures, which is Natya Shastra, which has been documented 5,000 years ago. And we were also amazed to know that the detail that they've gone into in terms of defining all the body movements and what it means in terms of emotions.
Wow. Yeah.
So it uses that framework. So you get 9 emotions, and there are 2 additional parameters that we derive. One is stress, which is not an emotion, but we derive it from the 9 core emotions, which we capture from your body.
Okay.
Right. And we have benchmarked that with an EEG device, and it follows the same pattern.
Right.
And the other one is engagement, which is defined in 3 ways. One is negative. So, for example, you're watching a movie and there is a horror scene
Yeah.
which you don't like, but you're engaged in that movie. So, your negative emotions are more prominent as compared to your positive.
Of course. Yeah.
And therefore, the engagement is negative in nature.
Right.
Right. And the other one could be positive, where you're watching the same movie. There's a happy scene, you're happy, and positive emotions are more prominent.
Yeah.
So your engagement is positive in nature, measured from 0 to 1, while negative is measured from 0 to -1.
Oh, so there's actually a quantified
Yes.
number that comes out.
Comes out. And the third one is neutral, which is along the x-axis, which is neither negative nor positive.
But I love that how you said that the roots of this is from something so ancient as 5,000 years ago in those scriptures, and how that ties into today's cutting edge
Yeah.
stuff of AI and the technology that it is today. So I love that how that ties back to fundamentally something that is so human.
Yeah. I mean, in fact, I would like to, give you a little history about this.
Sure.
It's been a journey close to 5 years now. We've
Okay.
been working on this platform, where being a tech company, we've been always working with the cutting edge tech.
Yeah.
We realize that, yes, the machines will become more efficient. They will probably do some tasks which are better than human beings. But imagine if you had a layer of emotions on top of that, then that would help machines empathize with human beings and help them respond
Yeah.
to human beings the way, depending on what they feel and what they are. So that quest actually took us in this direction.
Okay.
So the first thing was we knew tech. Now, The other thing was to figure out what is the best psychological framework.
Figure out humans.
Yes. So what is it? So then we looked at various frameworks. The famous ones are the Paul Ekman framework,
Yeah.
which is sort of been there for decades and used by all psychologists. The other one is the FACS system, which is from MIT labs.
Okay.
Now, when we studied them, we realized that the biggest folly there was that they are all based on facial expressions, right? So, let's say if you're sitting in front of the camera
Yeah.
and you faked a smile, the system would say you're happy.
Yeah. Okay. Right. Okay. So
In reality, you're not.
yeah.
Right. So we soon realized that this is not going to work. So that actually we researched further, and that's when we actually stumbled upon Natish.
So you're saying that Emoscape can detect a fake smile?
Yes,
Oh wow.
it can, because it is based on
Much more than just a smile.
Natya Shastra is science behind drama. So if you understand that, that's primarily how method actors actually, perform their roles. They actually get into the skin of the character.
Okay.
That's how they are able to transfer the emotions of the character to the audience.
And that's what you sort of built
Yes,
into
and
Emoscape.
that is defined in Natya Shastra. So you will see the method actors, they get into the role, and Natya Shastra doesn't stop there. It goes one step further to understand the impact of that on the audience.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
So it covers the entire spectrum. And when we were working with several leading psychiatrists later as part of our refinement of the model, we realized that this is nothing but theory of mind,
Yeah.
which is a concept of mirroring of neurons.
Right. Right.
And which has been there documented thousands of years ago.
Okay.
So in fact, I always say that if it was America, somebody would have definitely branded this and sold it to the whole world. Being Indians, we've actually not done that. So this is a fully homegrown product
Lovely.
based on Indian scriptures
Yeah.
and homegrown tech. We have not used any third-party platform. Nothing.
Okay.
So this is a
Right.
product made in India for the globe. And I'm happy that Jahangir Wellness Center is the first center globally to actually have this.
Yeah, it's lovely. And it's because of the aspect that you mentioned. I mean, we obviously want to bring the right kind of technology and the right kind of artificial intelligence into wellness, because if it only enhances the person, the human, then that's what we want. And that's exactly what you all are doing. You're starting from a very human place. It goes through its complicated process of smart people like you who've built Emoscape, but the end result is still something very human. It's an emotion or a sort of platform for someone to learn about or take that emotion forward, which actually comes to my question that I was going to ask is that, okay, all this is great. You're getting some kind of report at the end of this 1 minute. How does that benefit me? What do I do with that report?
See, there is a lot of data and research articles available in all the leading science magazines, which suggests the role of emotions, especially the negative ones, in development of non-communicable diseases, autoimmune disorders, etc. Until today, there hasn't been any technology which could actually detect human emotions and calibrate them accurately.
Yeah.
So Emoscape fills in that gap. So now people can in fact correlate their emotional parameters with their physiological parameters.
Okay.
So for instance, if you maintain high levels of stress, anxiety, anger, for instance,
Yeah.
and it definitely has an impact on your hypertension, right? So if
Right.
you're a hypertensive patient, then you know that
It's all one thing.
you need to correct this.
Yeah.
And the key point here is that emotion is the first symptom that we've seen, which people don't normally realize. And that is the first sign. And that's a new vital that we are actually making it measurable through insight.
Exactly what you said. You added stress, which is such a
Yeah.
big thing.
It's a big one, yes.
Yeah.
So all the negative emotions and there's no way people can understand what their emotions are. And here we are giving you a graph which tells you about each emotion in that duration on the test, and it also scores it. So you can get a complete detailed understanding of what your emotional states are.
And then I suppose if that's, elevated in some particular areas, you can sort of correlate that to your,
Yes.
as you said, your BP or your...
Yeah. In fact, I'm happy to say that at Jahangir Wellness, you also have the other therapies that you do practice.
Yeah.
For example, yoga, meditation,
Right,
music, etc. So, in fact, this will also be a lead in for people to understand that if I have the high level of negative emotions, then I should actually
Do this,
consider
yeah.
one of these therapies to actually balance those.
Yeah, absolutely, because we're all holding hands here for which is why this is such a powerful start. And as I
Yeah.
said, bringing in the technology aspect of it is such a
Yeah.
cool thing as well.
Absolutely. See, the other thing is that, for instance, even in gynec or adolescent and child care, right? Now, these are categories where adolescents and children, it's very difficult to get them for anybody to assess their emotions and what they are feeling inside.
Yeah.
They're not even able to articulate this. So, Emoscape is a very good platform to enable detection of these emotions.
Yeah.
Therefore, provide a additional aid to the clinicians to provide a holistic.
Can you give us some examples of that where you've seen the impact of
there are-
Emoscape on how it's actually
Yes,
played out in
absolutely.
particular?
In fact, recently we have we've conducted emotional assessment of postgraduate doctors
Okay.
at the Maharashtra University of Health Science.
Right.
So one of the interesting points that I want to share here is that they they carried out their conventional assessments, which is the perceived stress scales test, as well as Compton-Beck's anxiety scale. They also did a psychiatrist assess those candidates. And one of the doctors there was marked as mild vulnerable.
Okay.
And so we ran an Emoscape test on that, where Emoscape detected that to be severe.
Wow.
And in fact, it so happened that he'd gone through some serious issues on his personal side.
Okay.
And he was on the verge of sort of taking that ultimate step.
Wow.
And it was a timely intervention which actually helped them save that cat.
That's incredible.
So that itself is a very powerful sort of experience that we've had.
Wow. Yeah.
In
That's quite something that, and that probably gives you a lot more motivation to take it to the next level and so forth. But it just again, from the tech standpoint, because again, everyone is talking about AI. Where does the AI aspect play into Emoscape? Like, what does it do?
So, for example, if you see the way the whole process works, the first level is you capture the video or the images of the person.
Yeah.
So then, so that's one tech, right? Then you pick up the cues, emotional cues from 75 points on your upper body.
Right.
So that's the second one. And you then translate that into understand meaningful data. And then that data gets processed. Now, here is where all the machine learning, neural networks comes into play. And once that processing is done, then it gets translated into emotions, where it predicts the emotion. So there again, that all this
cycle.
tech comes in. Yes. And in fact, you will see the report also, which is actually always, I mean, it keeps improving by the day. We're trying to make it as human as possible.
Yeah.
So that people can understand. It's very simple and easy for people to understand what the output is. And it will improve day by day. Because that is where
that's
the AI is learning.
Right. Fascinating. Anything exciting that's coming up that we can hopefully see in the near future as well? Any thoughts that what you would like to see happen?
Well, in fact, one is that since this is a new place, new space, well, and like every new tech, we need to evangelize it a little bit. So we're actually in that process of evangelizing it and want to make sure that each and every specialty actually uses it.
Right, exactly.
And see how this can benefit. Because as part of the development process itself, we have consulted gynacs, adolescent child care specialists, gut health specialists. That's another major area because
the gut health now is becoming so linked to the emotional state.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Obesity, all those are emotional issues.
Right.
Then pre-surgery counseling.
Okay.
These are some of the things that we need to look at: cardiology, neurology,
Right.
and the rehab processes of traumatic brain injury patients, etc., where Emoscape can help get better insights of patients.
Yeah, you've got, I think, endless potential where Emoscape can go in terms of.
Yeah, and the bigger thing here is that all the existing processes, they're all subjective in nature.
Yeah.
Right? So it is all all the emotions and moods have been assessed, and it is articulated in a descriptive form.
Right.
So it is heavily dependent on the linguistic skills of the patient,
Right.
the doctor, and the interpreter.
And so it's a
Correct.
three
So
combining, yeah.
it depends on who gets it right. While here, this is an objective process. It replaces it completely. And it's a standard. So you
Yeah.
can, in fact, take multiple tests and you can measure the delta between the last one and this one.
Yeah, yeah. And it only helps
It
in when you're going with to a doctor or to a therapist or for yourself to understand it.
Correct. Absolutely.
Any thoughts that you'd like to leave us with for the future?
Well, there is, in fact, we've also learned quite a bit here, given the spectrum of people
Yeah, sure.
here for physical checkups.
Yeah.
From the corporate crowd to
Right, young, old,
multiple
yeah.
age groups. So, so what we've seen is that it's also a sort of a communication starter, right? In fact, I like to narrate one experience here
Please
which
do.
I had myself.
Yeah, absolutely.
Where while a middle-aged lady, maybe 35, 40, she took a test, and then we realized that there was the anxiety was a little high on all the 3 tests that she took. So we said, look, there is some issue. There is something bothering you here. And there it was. We have not met her before. We couldn't know her.
Yeah.
Like she opened up like, oh, this is, this is the problem at home. This is what's happening. These guys are troubling me or what is that. So it starts that.
You provided that foundation for her,
Very
for the springboard for her to
Absolutely.
open up.
So, which helps counselors as well as the physicians who are actually advising them
Right.
know what's happening,
Yeah.
which otherwise people will not open up.
Right. It's trying to just not quantify, but trying to give a little bit of structure to the abstract, or what is potentially to the abstract to that person.
Absolutely. And we've also, that's the next step that we're working on. In fact, we've also done some experiments with coma patients as well.
Okay.
Trying to read their
Right.
emotions despite their eyes being closed, etc., and we wouldn't be able to and all those things. So we've got some encouraging results. So I think people would also encourage us to look forward.
Absolutely. Very looking forward to seeing where this or where this goes in the future, Sandeep. So I mean, as we said, the potential is huge, and look forward to that journey together. But what I have to say is that what I do love about all this is that we're talking about tech and so forth. But I love that what you've done is starting from something so human. It's going through its very high tech AI journey, but it's also landing in a place that's very human. So that is really something that is the heart of everything that
Absolutely.
that makes sense.
Yeah. In fact, for the audience, I would like to say that there's a whole host of studies that are available on the role of emotions, and one of the common things being that high levels of negative emotions actually release cortisol and or adrenaline in the system, which these have been designed to help human beings fight a certain crisis. Right? But given that we all live in various environments and so many pressures, people tend to be in this state on a continuous basis. Those chemicals are released on a ongoing basis into your system, and which have a residual impact on your physicals.
Absolutely, yeah.
So if they understand this early, they can take corrective action. They can try therapies like yoga, meditation, music, etc.
Absolutely,
to actually balance that.
Right. Thank you for sharing that, Sandeep. That was very, I think, something important that people would want to hear.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for being here, Sandeep. We appreciate that. And as I said, look forward to where the future brings with you in the driving seat.
Thanks, Kaus. Always a pleasure being here.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you all, and look forward to seeing you next week. But before you leave, do not forget to hit the like and subscribe button here at the bottom. Please leave us any comments you may have, any feedback, any topics that you'd like us to cover. We're always here listening to you. So see you all next week. Thank you.